Robert, I have devastating news about your retirement account, Thomas Mitchell said during our quarterly meeting. The market crash wiped out your entire 401k. You've lost everything. $340,000 gone. He showed me doctored statements proving my financial ruin while expressing fake sympathy for my situation. But Thomas had made one critical mistake. He assumed I wouldn't verify his claims independently or discover that my money was sitting in accounts he controlled. The evidence I gathered would prove he'd been stealing from dozens of clients while covering his tracks with fabricated market losses. My name is Robert Garcia, 43 years old, and I'm a mechanical engineer from Denver, Colorado. For 8 years, I'd been working with Thomas Mitchell, a financial advisor who managed my retirement, savings, and investment portfolio with what seemed like professional expertise and genuine concern for my financial future. I thought my biggest challenge was maximizing my retirement savings while planning for my children's college education. I had no idea that the man I trusted with my life savings was systematically stealing from me and dozens of other clients through one of the most sophisticated Ponzi schemes Colorado had ever seen. The relationship with Thomas began in 2016 when I was 35 years old and finally earning enough as a senior engineer to start seriously planning for retirement. My wife Maria and I had 2 young children, and we were determined to build the kind of financial security that would allow us to retire comfortably while ensuring our kids could attend college without crushing student loan debt. Thomas came highly recommended from several colleagues who'd worked with him for years and praised his investment expertise and personal attention to client needs. He operated Mitchell Financial advisory services from an impressive office in downtown Denver, and his client list included doctors, lawyers, engineers, and other professionals who trusted him with substantial investment portfolios. During our initial consultation, Thomas impressed me with his knowledge of retirement planning strategies, tax-advantaged investment vehicles, and market analysis that seemed sophisticated and professional. He explained how he could help me maximize my 401k contributions while building a diversified portfolio that would grow steadily over the next 20 years. Thomas recommended a comprehensive investment strategy that included aggressive growth funds for long-term appreciation, conservative bond allocations for stability, and international diversification to protect against domestic market volatility. His approach seemed well-researched and appropriate for someone in my age, bracket, and risk tolerance. For the first 5 years of our relationship, Thomas consistently delivered impressive returns that outperformed market benchmarks and exceeded my expectations for retirement savings growth. My quarterly statements showed steady gains that put me well ahead of schedule for my retirement goals, and Thomas's regular communication kept me informed about market conditions and portfolio adjustments. The performance was so consistent and positive that I increased my investment contributions and referred several friends and family members to Thomas's services. My retirement account grew from $45,000 to over $340,000 during our first 8 years together, making Thomas seem like a financial genius who could deliver results that other advisors couldn't match. But in early 2024, Thomas began warning me about potential market instability and economic conditions that could threaten retirement savings. He explained that inflation, geopolitical tensions, and banking industry problems were creating unprecedented risks for long-term investors like myself. Robert, I'm concerned about some troubling trends I'm seeing in the market, Thomas said during a meeting in February 2024. We might need to consider more defensive positioning to protect your retirement savings from the volatility that's coming. I've been moving some clients into safer investments to preserve their capital. These warnings seemed reasonable, given the economic uncertainty that was being reported in financial news. And I appreciated Thomas's proactive approach to protecting my retirement savings from potential market downturns. I authorized him to make whatever adjustments he felt were necessary to safeguard my investments. But Thomas's warnings became increasingly dire over the following months, with predictions of major market crashes and economic disasters that would devastate traditional retirement portfolios. He claimed that only his specialized investment strategies could protect clients from the financial catastrophe he was predicting. The crisis came during our quarterly meeting in September 2024, when Thomas delivered the devastating news that would change everything about my understanding of our relationship and his true character. "Robert, I have devastating news about your retirement account," Thomas said with what appeared to be genuine distress and sympathy. "The market crash I've been warning you about has happened, and despite our best efforts to protect your investments, you've lost everything. Your entire 401k is gone. $340,000 wiped out." The news was absolutely devastating and completely unexpected. While I'd been aware of market volatility and economic concerns, I hadn't seen any reports of the kind of catastrophic crash that would eliminate an entire retirement portfolio that had been growing steadily for years. Thomas showed me detailed account statements that documented the systematic destruction of my investment portfolio over the previous 3 months. According to his reports, every single investment had failed simultaneously, creating total losses that eliminated decades of careful savings and financial planning. "I'm so sorry, Robert," Thomas continued with apparent professional remorse. "I've never seen anything like this in 30 years of financial planning. The combination of bank failures, currency devaluation, and market manipulation has created perfect storm conditions that destroyed even the most conservative portfolios." But something about Thomas's explanation didn't align with my understanding of financial markets and investment diversification. The complete elimination of a diversified portfolio seemed statistically impossible, even during major market corrections that had historically affected different asset classes in different ways. Most concerning was Thomas's immediate recommendation that I shouldn't attempt to verify his account statements with outside sources or seek second opinions from other financial professionals. He claimed that the financial industry was in such chaos that other advisors wouldn't be able to provide accurate information about market conditions. My engineering background had taught me to verify claims independently and question explanations that seemed inconsistent with known facts and established patterns. I decided to conduct my own investigation into market conditions and the supposed crash that had destroyed my retirement savings. The independent research immediately revealed that Thomas's claims about market crashes and financial catastrophes were completely false. While there had been some market volatility and economic uncertainty, there had been no catastrophic events that would justify the total loss of a diversified investment portfolio. Most financial markets had actually performed reasonably well during the period when Thomas claimed my investments had been destroyed, and major market indices showed modest gains rather than the devastating losses he'd reported. The supposed financial apocalypse that had eliminated my retirement savings had never occurred. I contacted the brokerage firms and mutual fund companies where Thomas claimed my investments had been held, requesting independent verification of my account balances and transaction histories. What I discovered was shocking and confirmed my worst suspicions about Thomas's true activities. The companies had no record of the investments that Thomas had been reporting on my quarterly statements for years. The mutual funds, bond portfolios, and international investments that supposedly comprised my retirement portfolio had never existed, and no money had ever been transferred to the accounts Thomas claimed to be managing. I realized that Thomas had been operating a classic Ponzi scheme, using new client investments to pay fake returns to existing clients while stealing the majority of funds for his personal use. My quarterly statements showing steady growth had been complete fabrications, and my retirement savings had been stolen rather than lost to market conditions. But Thomas had made a critical mistake when he chose to target an engineer with analytical training and investigative instincts. Instead of accepting his fraudulent explanation, I began building a comprehensive case that would expose his criminal operation and ensure he faced serious consequences for destroying dozens of families' financial futures. I contacted other clients whose names I'd learned through social connections and discovered that several had received similar explanations about market crashes destroying their retirement portfolios. Thomas was using the same fraudulent scheme to cover his theft from multiple victims while claiming that unprecedented market conditions were responsible for everyone's losses. The pattern was consistent and systematic. Thomas would build client relationships over several years, providing fake account statements showing impressive investment growth, then claim that sudden market crashes had eliminated all gains and principal investments. Clients were left with nothing while Thomas controlled millions of dollars in stolen funds. I also discovered that Thomas had been living far beyond what his legitimate income as a financial advisor could support. He owned multiple luxury homes, expensive cars, and was funding a lavish lifestyle through money stolen from clients who trusted him with their retirement security and children's college funds. Most damaging was evidence that Thomas was working with accomplices who helped him create fraudulent documentation and maintain the appearance of legitimate investment activities. His administrative staff knew about the scheme and were helping him fabricate account statements and transaction records that supported his theft. The confrontation came when I returned to Thomas's office for a follow-up meeting, carrying recording equipment and accompanied by investigators from the Securities and Exchange Commission, who were prepared to arrest him for operating a Ponzi scheme and stealing millions of dollars from retirement accounts. Thomas was confident and comfortable as he continued explaining why my retirement savings were gone and what steps I could take to rebuild my financial security after the supposed market disaster. He had no idea that federal investigators were documenting every fraudulent statement he made. "Robert, I know this is devastating, but we need to focus on moving forward," Thomas said with practiced sympathy. "I can help you restart your retirement planning with new investment strategies that will protect against the kind of market manipulation that destroyed your previous portfolio." That's when I revealed that I knew he'd been operating a Ponzi scheme and that federal agents were prepared to arrest him for systematic securities fraud that had victimized dozens of families throughout Colorado. "Thomas," I said calmly, "I'm an engineer, and I've been investigating your claims about market crashes and investment losses. You've been running a Ponzi scheme, stealing client money while providing fake account statements. I have documentation of your entire criminal operation." Thomas's confident expression immediately changed to shock and panic as he realized that his fraud scheme had been completely exposed and that he was facing serious federal criminal charges that could result in decades in prison. The SEC investigation revealed that Thomas had been operating his Ponzi scheme for over 12 years, stealing approximately $8.4 million from 127 clients who trusted him with their retirement savings, college funds, and investment portfolios. His victims included teachers, engineers, medical professionals, and retirees who had lost their life savings to his systematic theft. Thomas's method was sophisticated and convincing. He would provide clients with impressive fake returns for several years to build trust and encourage larger investments, then claim that market crashes or economic disasters had eliminated their portfolios when he needed to cover his theft, or when clients requested withdrawals. The investigation also revealed that Thomas had been coordinating his scheme with several accomplices, including administrative staff who helped create fraudulent documentation and a corrupt accountant who helped him launder stolen funds through complex financial transactions designed to hide the money trail. Thomas was ultimately convicted on multiple federal charges, including securities fraud, operating a Ponzi scheme, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit theft from retirement accounts. He was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison plus complete restitution to all victims whose retirement savings he had stolen. His accomplices also faced serious charges, with his administrative assistant receiving 8 years in prison for helping maintain the fraudulent records, and his accountant receiving 12 years for money laundering and conspiracy. The entire criminal organization was dismantled, and their assets were seized to pay restitution to victims. The recovery process was lengthy and complex, but federal investigators were able to locate and recover approximately 60% of the stolen funds through asset seizures and international cooperation with authorities who helped trace money that Thomas had hidden in offshore accounts. Today, I work as a consultant helping other Ponzi scheme victims navigate the recovery process and rebuild their financial security after being victimized by investment fraud. My experience with Thomas taught me that retirement savings require constant vigilance and independent verification rather than blind trust in financial professionals. Mitchell Financial Advisory Services was permanently closed, and the office building now houses a legitimate investment firm that operates under strict regulatory oversight and transparency requirements designed to prevent the kind of fraud that Thomas perpetrated against his trusting clients. Thomas's attempt to steal my retirement savings ultimately backfired because he chose a victim who had the analytical skills and determination needed to expose his criminal operation. His Ponzi scheme was destroyed by someone who refused to accept fraudulent explanations and demanded evidence rather than excuses. Sometimes, the most dangerous criminals are those who exploit our hopes for financial security and comfortable retirement. Thomas's fake market crash explanation was designed to cover his systematic theft, while preventing victims from investigating his claims, but his scheme was destroyed by verification and determination. The devastating news about my retirement losses turned out to be a complete fabrication designed to cover Thomas's theft, while his 25-year prison sentence represents real consequences for someone who built his lifestyle on stolen retirement dreams and destroyed families' financial futures through systematic deception and fraud.